second.
So another thing that
Yes?
Montreal has taken car parking and put bike parking in car parking spots, which.
We've done that.
I support that as
I mean,
well.
but why can't for
But we
every
can have
electric car
multiple-
vehicle we also incentivize zero emission? Like, why are we only looking at replacing parking spots
But
with
we're
more
not,
parking
we just
spots?
replaced 400 parking spots with a bike lane on Central Park West. I mean, we can do
Yeah.
2 things at once.
All right, let's.
Yeah, I think that
before
it should be on
finish their
side streets.
discussion, You have a resolution. I think
Okay,
we need to-
I just to be clear, I'm very much against it. I think, obviously electric cars are better than gas guzzling cars. The city should be in the business of encouraging the most environmentally friendly type of transportation. Not eliminating private vehicles, but using their efforts to encourage walking, biking, subway riding, bus lanes and things like that.
But they're not mutually
That's-
exclusive.
Yeah,
They can
there's
do
not
2
a
things at
debate.
once.
That's my point.
Well, it is a debate.
Add a friendly amendment to include much of what you said.
I mean, I'm happy to
I mean,
include that, of course.
But also that like the focus of the DOT should not be on electric vehicles, it should be on improving mass, at least this is for
I wouldn't say this is our
I know,
focus. I would say
exactly.
this
Right.
is
Yeah.
one project
Right.
that we're
Exactly.
working
We're
on. You know, we also have projects to move buses faster. We
To
have
create
projects.
public space. I
Right,
mean, there's-
exactly.
Let Howard call on
Okay.
people.
Andrew.
Okay, so I understand where Howard is coming from, and my problem is for a city that says it really wants to encourage the use of mass transit,
Right.
it's incredible how little they're contributing to the
Absolutely.
MTA's overall budget. We are facing some service cuts
Off
this
topic.
fall,
Yeah, it's just
which
not
is really gonna turn people
relevant.
off to transit. While we're gonna institute congestion pricing, which would ostensibly move people to mass transit, we're gonna be cutting some service. And that is because there is no dedicated fund for operating. There's dedicated for capital, but not operating. If the city really wanted to encourage these things, it would step up to the plate and do some of those things.
Correct. Julian.
I completely agree with you. I think when I think about this program as a pilot program, as a program that's using very few spots in the city as a whole, I think it makes sense to implement it. And you know, it's not mutually exclusive to promoting biking, subway riding, bus riding, zero emissions transit throughout the city. But I think we should support it, but with a clause that includes, you know, we need to be, you know, stronger advocating for our subways or buses.
And by the way, the MTA, all of their new bus purchases are all electric.
Yeah.
I just, it seems rather de minimis. We are talking about, on the Upper West Side, 6 total parking spaces. We're actually not removing parking spaces or adding them, we're just making them EV only. We just, and it was the board's conscience, and we removed 400 parking spaces on Central Park West. That was a decision that we all very carefully and made a decision, and so be it. I support this. I think, you know, the perfect should not be the enemy of the good. And if there are 6 more, you know, EV vehicles rather than gas, you know, engine vehicles, I'm all for it.
Sarah, would you accept
Okay,
as a friendly amendment?
I'll call the question.
Wait,
I have a friendly amendment to make it on side streets instead of
Yes,
avenues.
yeah, oh, yeah. That was
All
so
those
right.
in favor, please raise their hands.
with the additional language.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those opposed? 1. I guess that's the committee. No, you'll get to vote.
No. In this resolution, I just need clarification. Are you guys approving these sites that they are piloting?
No, the resolution.
We're not-
To support the,
Yeah, we're not asking.
support the program.
Right,
Community
they're not
members.
yet at that.
Very
All
important.
committee members, all those in favor?
2.
2. Any
0, 0,
opposed,
0.
abstaining?
If we could include in the resolution some sort of language about how great it would be if it wasn't the coal grid that.
oh, yeah,
powers
yeah.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
It's far from
You have
perfect.
Sergeant Montgomery, you can.
Yes, and next we have the patiently waiting
Roberta.
representatives of the 20th
We're gonna take
precinct.
these off the website, I assume, the ones that they're not
Yeah.
considered.
Oh, yeah. Roberta, is it alright if I take this to my computer?
Yes, of
My
course.
Sorry?
We had decided you weren't here.
That was it, right? Support the program, but put them on side streets, get community input on the sites, use green power, and support mass transit?
Oh, okay, wow.
Just so you know, we're recording.
That's fine. The resident parking
Yes.
thing, most of the citizens of Boston that tried found it to be a disaster because nobody ever moved their cars. Streets became dirtier.
I can't hear because she's.
The issue with the obstruction of the bike lane.
People,
Yes.
people, we
We're
wanna,
done with the first
excuse
issue.
me.
Because we have Inspector Malin and Sergeant Montgomery here, we're going to raise a few issues for them. Understanding they may not be able to stay for the full evening. Rich, did you have an issue? Rich?
Yeah, so Howard and I have been emailing that there have been a number of cars parked either in the bike lane or especially in the buffer of the new Central Park West bike lane. And wondering what your thoughts are and whether this is an enforcement issue, whether this is a design issue that DOT needs to put up bollards, and what can be done about that.
They need summonses, the best thing you can do. So we do write parking summonses, but mainly the department made a conscious choice to take 95% of the parking tickets out of the hand of the uniformed police officers and put them in the hands of the civilians, the traffic agents, because they write so much faster, they have the electronic summons issuing mechanism that we, the police officers, don't have. They do 95%. You can call 311 and we'll send someone over. We respond to 311 cell. And the 20th precinct will send someone over to issue a summons. However, if it's somebody popping in and dropping off, the likelihood that we're going to make it there, if they're there for 5-10 minutes, 311 are not priority jobs, we get to them, but we get to them when we get to them, okay? What I'd ask is this, is that if it's really, really frequent, and it's in addition to calling, always call 311, especially if someone's going to be blocking a bike lane, and you think, especially a truck making a long-term delivery, fresh direct, please let me know right away. That said, if it's a matter of just constant blockage and people are moving in and out 5-10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, what I'd like you to do is simply this, is let's choose one person. Rich, if we can make it you if you want, get photos taken. You and me, you and I will meet with my counterpart from the traffic enforcement district, the captain who we have a very good relationship with. We called on him before, Captain Lee. We'll present him with the photos, and we'll have him move resources over there. We'll have him move civilian traffic agents more to Central Park West if it's becoming an issue. And I'll be happy to work with you on that. You know where to find me.
I do.
But the best thing is photographic evidence to show repeated violations, and I can absolutely participate in getting more resources.
So you think 311 is the best way?
311, listen, 311 is going to trigger a PD response, meaning my cops. Okay, fine, great. But with like all 311 complaints, when you call 311 because let's just say like someone's urinating in public or there's a parking condition, understand that 911 calls come first.
Right.
You know, and we triage these. And only when all the 911 calls are off the officer's queue, and for those people who haven't heard me speak before, some people think there's like an army of people out patrolling any time in the 20 precinct. It's typically 4 to 5 cars. That's it. The whole command like running around answering all the 911 calls. So you can call 311 as a long-term blockage. We do it block driveways. We get someone over there. We have a tow truck over there. No problem. But the majority of the double parking complaints, by the time we get there, they're gone. What you need is somebody posted there for a period during the daytime. And I don't have the resources to just take a cop and say, okay, just double parkers on CPW all day. But what I can do is help have a civilian moved over there, and actually that's actually like low-hanging fruit. That's pretty easy to do. Police and I've done it before. We can help. So the best thing, photographs, collect them, email it to me, and then we'll schedule a meeting with Captain Lee and see what resources he can move over there.
That's great.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thanks for police. No. Okay, then we'll move right on to.
Are they giving a report? They usually.
Felicia, go ahead.
Okay, in the 20th precinct for the 28-day period, which is August 12th through September 8th, the 20th precinct is down 21% with collisions, down 42% with injury collisions, down 30% with total injuries, down 28% with occupants. We're even with pedestrians, 4 versus 4, down 60% with bicycles, and this year we haven't had any fatalities. Knock on this table. Yes.
And are you, when you're saying down, are you comparing it to last month?
Last
or comparing
year.
it to the same
Last
month
year.
the year
Is that
before?
year to date or
That's 28 days.
28 days this year to last year?
Year to date, we're down 12% with collisions, 1% with injury collisions, almost 3% with total injuries. Occupants, we're down 4%. Pedestrians, we're down 8%, and bicycles, we're slightly up by 4, which is 13%. Activity-wise, we wrote 515 hazardous violations, 562 moving violations, 141 to yellow cabs and livery cabs. That's both Uber, the black cars. We rode 10 motorcycles and 8 bikes. And otherwise, we're heading in the right direction.
How are the new Doug breathalyzers working out?
Great, we had
Yes.
I followed up with you and I told Roberta, I wanna say it was a month ago, we used it for 2 DV arrests on one weekend. Incredibly generous and they come in, it leads to a lot more, the cops are a lot more confident. Just to sum up what Felicia's telling you, it's kind of a strange year, so summonses, total moving violations issued by the cops in the 20th precinct, they're down close to 19%. We've written 1,400 less movers at the exact same time last year, but collisions are also down 12%. There's been 141 less traffic collisions reported to us. So I don't know what to credit that to. This would require a study. I don't know if it's better engineering, signage, information being passed out to motorists, weather. I can't put my finger on it, but it's an interesting phenomenon because there's actually been less enforcement, but significantly less collisions too.
Great.
There was a death on Central Park West tonight.
That's the 2-4.
That's in the
24th district. This is the 20th precinct.
Yeah, we're the 20th precinct. This is the 20th precinct. I go to 86th.
Below 86th. 98th Street, sir.
That's the 24th.
Yeah.
In Central Park is
well aware of it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a different, that's great. Any other questions, comments?
How about speeding tickets?
Specifically speeding down 106 year to date, that's 13% of them. So 700 this year versus 806 last year. Should be noted too, by the way, when we flipped to the neighborhood policing model, I had a traffic team of 6 dedicated officers. One retired last November of 2018. She was good for about 150 summonses a month. It was a staffing decision I had to make not to replace her and pull someone off patrol. That was a resource allocation thing to keep more cars, patrol cars in the field. So you'll see like a lot of our numbers start to normalize after November. We won't be reporting as down significantly. When you have one cop that writes about 150, how good was she? What was she good for every month roughly?
About 120.
Anywhere between 120 and the last couple of months she broke to the very end. It was like 150. So they won't be down as significantly come November because there'll be 5 officers versus 5 officers in the traffic team. They write the line. 75% of my summonses are written by 5 cops. 5 cops, and that's all they do all day is go out and write summonses. So those numbers will start to normalize. Again, though, I can't justify pouring more resources into the traffic team when my collisions are down 12%.
What's your gut as to why?
I have no clue. I don't even want to speculate because I'll be on camera and I'll get it wrong.
Her chair's blocking you.
Bicycles. I'm a big cyclist, so I'm not against the bicycle at all. But the amount of people that are riding the wrong way in bike lanes, and actually on Central Park West the other day, Saturday, there was like 50 guys riding their bikes, doing wheelies down Central Park West, crossing lanes, aiming cyclists with their front wheels up in the air. Outrageous and dangerous. And I don't know who to call. I don't know who's supposed to be. Like, is it police? Is it traffic?
This comes up at a lot of meetings here. So we were 248 summonses purely to bicyclists year to date. Okay, that's about 3% of my total. When you look at the collisions, they're 33 out of 1,033 collisions year to date. That's about 3% of the total. I keep my summons enforcement. Felicia tracks this every week. She builds these reports for me. We keep our summons enforcement perfectly trying to measure it with the volume of collisions that they're involved with. And remember, not all those collisions with the bicyclists actually at fault. In that number, that 33, that's bike on car, bike on bike, and bike on pedestrian. So we do bike enforcement, but they're involved. Not even accountable for, I'll say involved with 3% of my collisions. So the enforcement is commensurate with that. The 97% of my collisions involve automobiles, that's our focus.
But a lot of cycling, like, because I was there, so. and
Take
if they
pictures
would-
and call 311.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yep.
is it, like, doesn't have.
And if it's a
to-
pack riding the wrong way down, like a pack, like of kids riding the wrong way down the street, that's actually, you know what, that's actually a 911 call. Go ahead.
That's actually what I called, because,
Yeah.
I mean, I almost, if I wasn't, whatever, I would've been here, but, I just didn't know if I was doing the right thing.
Yes, 911 call for pack of kids wrong way on the street.
I'm just wondering if there's some way we can get out more publicly the stat about the fact that you do issue bike summons and the fact that it's commensurate with the incidents, because I was speaking with this woman the other day who was irate about the bicycles, and when I told her that you issue summonses, I mean, she just did not believe me. She was like, you are lying, they
Well,
never issue summonses, and I'm telling her like, this is the fact, and she's just like, no.
3%. What I like to do is come to community board meetings and talk about it.
Unfortunately, very few of the community comes.
I'm glad you mentioned the word pack, because I've been seeing this and I'm sure you're aware of it. There's a group of motorcyclists and three-wheelers.
Let's talk about motorcycles, three-wheelers, really
Right.
quick. All right, so what happens when there's a motorcycle group, is we don't do this for bicycles, we do this for motorcycles and three-wheelers. Luckily, we're compared to the east side precincts and compared to the Midtown South precincts and my neighbors even just north of me in the 2-4, we're kind of lucky. We get them going down Broadway, but we're a little more immune because the Upper West Side, 59 to 86, is a little sleepy. So often they bypass us on the Henry Hudson. When the Borough instituted a procedure, this isn't a 2-0 problem, 2-4 problem. This is a everywhere problem.
Right.
The department has the Chief O'Reilly is my boss, the 2-star chief. In response to so many complaints, first on the weekend, Felicia routinely goes up to the 25th precinct, which is Harlem, to participate in motorcycle enforcement, where they have the highway guys actually trying to box them in. When they do come down to the 2-0, right, every time there's a 911 call for that, we must take a police crime report for reckless endangerment, right? We document it, not on a police crime report. Then there has to be follow-up. My neighborhood, if there's body camera footage, the officers are instructed, if they see the pack going by, to turn on their body cameras and try and capture a plate. If there's no body camera footage, my neighborhood coordination officers must go out within 48 hours and do a video canvas to try and recover video, put it in an actual like detective squad case where we try and get plate numbers. We run the plate numbers, we give them to Intel, they try and find out where the origin is, it's typically the Bronx, just over the bridge, and they try and track down, and what the department does is they try and grab those riders at the source before they ride out. So there's like a really sophisticated procedure.
Does everybody know that, Deputy Inspector Mallons, but,
You're
sorry to
fine.
interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I have observed these riders probably 50 times, if not more. And
We don't pull them over.
Right, I assume you can't, but I can also tell you that, when I'm looking at them, I can see that many of them have no plates and they're not street legal vehicles at all.
So the department made the conscious decision, my patrol officers are under strict direction not to pursue them, not to pull them over. This is what we don't want. We don't want them running from us on Broadway. They're going to cause more harm when they take a curve or go the wrong way on a one-way street or blow through a red light. They're gonna take out a pedestrian if patrol cars behind them with their red lights on. We simply do this. We document in a crime report, we recover video, we send it to Intel, they try to identify where the plates are registered to, where they have plates. And then the department does large-scale operations at the source of the rideouts, and the department monitors their social media feeds to find out when and where these are happening. So Felicia will tell you every Friday, like her and I get a report about the weekend rideouts and where they are, and Manhattan North conducts their own operations. You just don't see it because they're up in the 2-5 precinct. Felicia, correct me if I'm wrong.
2-5, and I know in the 3-2 with the body cam, they were able to do facial recognition and to lock up 3 of the bicyclists for the facial.
I'll get you some video too, because they go right by my window.
Yeah,
I'll make sure.
Our body cameras are high def and can be fed into facial.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Whole different issue.
Very quick, just also in reference to bikes, you guys have an issue here, but it's more prevalent up in the 2-4 in Central Park. There have been several articles in the New York Post, and you guys should take a look at them, where there is a big problem with reckless bikers in Central Park, and also has increased markedly since the bike lane went in on Central Park West. where she said people are riding the wrong way. It's a group of mostly African American and Hispanic kids, and they seem to think it's fun to come tearing down the bike lane. They also do this on Columbus and Central Park West every other day, doing wheelies, etc.
When they're in the park, call 911. The park is most of their traffic enforcement devices.
Yeah, no, they're aware of it, but the problem is that, as you said, basically they scatter, and it's become more prevalent. The other issue is that with more bike lanes, you have more, how do I put this politely, but Lance Armstrong wannabes, who, when the gentleman was hit in Central Park a couple weekends ago, the response to most of the people the reporter stopped were, well, we need to go at this rate of speed, 30, 40 miles an hour, because we're, quote, training.
Okay, I think Inspector Leon already addressed it.
Yeah.
I would go to a Central Park Community Council meeting and take it up with them.
No, we've already done that.
Yeah, real quick, I've noticed that, intercity buses that have been plaguing West End Avenue are now turning off of West End and going to Amsterdam at 76th Street. So I'm wondering, yeah, in the middle, I'm not sure, maybe it's because there's a construction project at 79th, I don't know. But I'm wondering if we're doing something differently, and, because that is a problem that just never seems to go away.
Okay, let's move on. 241 Central Park West. Is someone here from 241? 241 or 239? 241.
239.
Oh, I'm sorry. 239 Central Park West Corporation.
It's okay.
So why is it called 241 Central Park West?
It's 241 is put in the application to repurpose a window into a door.
It's the same issue.
And same issue.
Okay.
So my client, guys, I'm Jack Lepper from Kagan Lubick. My client is the building directly across the street, 239 Central Park West, on the southwest corner. And all 239 is asking is that there be a designated no parking area directly across from its building along 241 Central Park West, so that folks who are using what will be a newly created handicap access door can gain access to and from the street without there being double parking, without creating a blockage. So it's
How many spots are you talking about?
Right now, about 3 feet off the walkway, off the corner, is a fire hydrant that requires another 15 feet off of the hydrant, and so we're requesting 25 feet from that 15 feet or 40 feet from the hydrant, which will kind of put it right smack in the middle of that door.
Great.
On 84.
On 84th Street. So, I mean, I brought some, some pictures if you want them. You don't need them, you have them. Okay. But it's no more complicated. I mean, after the whole electrical presentation, I felt a little silly.
Any questions, comments, criticisms? Yep, Mark.
The Landmark Preservation Commission today adopted or approved the change to 241 that the gentleman was referring to. This is an issue that first came up
at a
preservation meeting.
Yeah.
And the issue is obviously not a preservation issue, but it's a fair issue. And I don't know, does the gentleman talk about the school on the block?
No.
There is a school, Rosh Shalom has a school as well, which, has a pickup drop-off issue as well. I'm not representing Rodolph in this instance, but it's really the same issue as to not block traffic on a fairly narrow street. The photographs that are being passed, you'll see that if there's an accessoride or other folks are being picked up and dropped off, it will block traffic.
So
I just want to say.
Also, the church has daycare and.
Further down the street on 84th Street.
I just want to point out, it's very interesting that in this photo, he mentioned the fire hydrant, which would mean that you only have to take really one parking spot, but there's somebody just straight up parked in the fire
Yeah, we
hydrant
noticed
spot.
that.
So, it all comes back to enforcement.
So we've had this problem with side street congestion, especially at pick up and drop off, because some, not necessarily this school, but many of these schools on the upper west side, on side streets, end up with black cars picking up kids and so forth. And while we can rail against that and we can demand enforcement and we can do all these things, a simple solution to create curbside access so that an accessorized vehicle, which is not the most nimble vehicle on our streets, can gain the curb, probably safer for the handicapped folks using it, probably safer for the people who live on the block, and a nice gesture to people who would otherwise be impacted on this. So I would support this,
any other comments?
Well, because we had a similar thing at, was it the July full board or one of the full boards where we had passed an approval for a loading zone in front of a building and then the full board rejected it. So I don't know if as a committee we wanna think about addressing that before, I mean, I hope we will approve this tonight, but maybe we need to do something to.
I did appear before your full board a couple weeks ago, and I felt that this was being well received, but I could have misread the
I
board.
just, you know, maybe we need to do a little.
Anything that improves access and improved traffic flow is great as far as I'm concerned. Did you have a comment?
No.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm just holding my hand.
Call the question.
Great. Yep. Call the question. All those in favor? All the committee members, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. Any opposed? Well, that's the whole committee. Non-committee members. 2. Great. Thanks.
Thank you all for your time.
Moving along, we have 2 secondary street renamings. The first one, Felipe de Jesus.
Bullitt, yes, I'm here for that. Hello, everyone. I've never done this before. Is this where you want me to stand? Am I following in his?
Yeah.
I hate having my back to people, so yeah. I'm a trial attorney, so that's bad practice to do that. I'm a novice, so I'm just gonna do this as best as I can. So my name is Tara Whalen. Thank you very much for putting me on your agenda and having me here today. I've lived in this community. A lot of these people behind me know me for a long time, my entire adult life. Sadly, I recently moved 2 months ago to Brooklyn, but that's another story. Anyway, Upper West Side is definitely my home and has been for a very long time. And I'm here to talk about my friend who recently passed, named Felipe de Jesus Bullitt. I'm trying to name the southwest corner of 80th and Amsterdam in his honor. First, I'd like to point out his wife here, Blanca Bullitt, otherwise known as Blanquita. Normally, we don't talk about a woman's age, but she is 100, so I think that's worth commemorating. Next to Blanquita is her granddaughter and his great-grandson. And there are friends and tenants and former tenants. There's tenants of the building. There were other people here too, but I think the Con Ed thing may have discouraged them. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Philippe. So I met Felipe. I moved into the building 206 West 80th Street, so that's 80th between Broadway and Amsterdam, in, I think it was March of 2010, and I lived there until I think summer of 16, but we kept in touch long after that. Actually, there was a former tenant here who had to leave, who wrote me a letter. He lived in the building from 09 to 11 and still kept in touch. So, you know, this man left his mark. Felipe, I think the reason why you should vote for this, I think he's a perfect example of what it means to be a New Yorker and what it means to be an Upper West Sider, and I think he's a very good reminder of what this city is about in this time that we're going through of xenophobia and hatred and all this stuff going on, and I think this is a perfect example. Felipe was born in 1925. He died just before he was 94 years old. He was born in Cuba, in, hopefully I'm saying it right, Sagua La Grande, Cuba.